Coming up, we have our second installment of Beyond the Parks this week on Disney Cruise Line's Alaska sailings. Plus, you have a chance to win a 7-night Disney cruise to Alaska. Coming up after this. This is the Diz Unplugged, episode 631 for the week of July 23rd, 2013. The Diz Unplugged is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel, helping you plan your perfect Walt Disney World, Disneyland, and Disney Cruise Line vacations. Visit them on the web at www.dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. Well, welcome everybody to the Diz Unplugged. We are here live from the Bob Varley studio here in Orlando, Florida. I am Dustin West, and I'm your host this week. Joined at the table by Sean Thompson, who's wearing big headphones. We also have Teresa Eccles.
I never noticed that.
Julie Martin.
I like your big
It's only been about 5 minutes.
And we are also joined today via Skype. We have Tracy Heinrichs from Dreams Unlimited Travel.
Yay.
Hi, Tracy.
And back in the production nook, we have our producer, Craig Williams.
The other way.
All right. Well, once again, welcome everybody. I am Dustin West. I am your host this week, filling in for Pete Werner, who, of course, we wish was here, especially on this Disney Cruise Line Alaska show, because he was a huge part of our trip that we did for Beyond the Parks. And we're just going to have to channel his energy here and try and do
I'll use
that.
some hand gestures.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Will that help?
But we certainly wish he was here. Can't wait. So now we're going to talk about some Disney Cruise Line Alaska stuff. Hold on. I'm just pulling up my notes. I wanted to open up this particular discussion with the question for those of you who have been on the Disney cruises to Alaska. What is the best way to describe this versus other Disney cruises, especially for Disney fans who have been on other Disney cruises to some of the different locations? So,
I know for me it was a lot different because the only other cruises I've been on are Caribbean cruises, and so there's only so much like beach stuff you can do and shopping. So and laying on the beach isn't really my thing. But this, you're sailing past like beautiful mountains and nature, and you could go off the ship and it's not boiling hot,
right?
And you're not sweaty, and you can walk around and do cool things like hiking and just walking and drink beer, and I don't know, it was cool. It was a lot better for me.
Well, you make it sound better because in my head I'm thinking I don't like to be cold. First of all, I've been on a cold.
It's actually not that cold
Well, I've been
for
on a
us
cold
at least.
Yeah.
Bahama cruise, and it was miserable. So if I was cold in Alaska, I think I'd be.
But it's summertime, right? So
Right.
It's not, or spring.
Don't get me wrong. It's not like, hey, summertime, let's all go out on deck. I mean, there was only a couple times where people were actually going out on deck and actually sunbathing. It's still chilly,
Well,
and it's windy on the ship.
Give me a temperature.
I'd say it was probably in like the 50s. That's what it
that's
seems
cold.
like.
Beautiful.
No, it was perfect. Yeah,
That's beautiful.
the only time
You only need a light sweater.
April 25th.
April 25th. Oh my God.
The coldest part that I saw was when we were actually moving fairly quickly, and then if you were up on deck,
Oh,
So
yeah.
then,
then the wind.
Then you got some cold.
Then it was
coming
chilly.
at you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think what my point going into this was to kind of show the difference between this and other cruise line experiences. This is a very unique experience. This is the only one really that's in that kind of cold weather environment and in these natural places instead of going to those some of those more tropical
Man-made
ports.
islands.
Well, I mean, you still go to man-made ports. Obviously, we're going to cities and towns and stuff. But I don't know, Tracy. What do you think? What's a good way to kind of differentiate this from other cruise line experiences if somebody's hesitant toward this?
I think Sean really hit on it with the ports is a big thing. Also the people. I mean, when I was visiting the different ports, nobody was asking to braid my hair every time I took 3 steps. And the amount of things there were to see and to do, I find often with the Caribbean, you can really get off the Caribbean, and if you didn't see a sign, you often don't know where you are in the Caribbean. There isn't a lot to differentiate one island from another, as opposed to in Alaska where the ports were quite different. So I think that's a lot of it, and just the tranquility of it. It's definitely a different vacation.
Right.
It is cooler, as Julie said, a cold cruise in the Bahamas. Remember that December one we did? Oh my goodness, that was cold. But when you go to the Bahamas, you're expecting warm weather. So I think it feels a little colder. It's a little bit of a different experience than if you're going somewhere where Alaska, where you're expecting temperatures in the 50s to 60s, 70s in the July and August months. So I think the difference is your preparation as well, and you kind of set yourself up for, for what it's going to be like.
Okay, thanks. Well, I know before we go into any more discussions on our Beyond the Park stuff and the different experiences that we had and the different stuff with the ship, we have, as mentioned at the top of the show, we have a prize that we're kind of setting up, and I know Sean has some of the details for that. If you want to mention that,
yeah. So it's kind of similar to the what we did last week for the Alani giveaway.
Right.
So there's going to be a phrase. Actually, this week it's not so much a phrase as it is just three different words that you'll have to unscramble and then go to the link. And obviously, Teresa did not watch the show because she looks really confused. But yeah, you take the 3 words, unscramble them, and then enter it in our form at disunplugged.com/contest. And then you'll be entered to win the prize, which I believe is a 7-night Disney Alaska cruise.
Right.
So. We have information on the site about that.
Do we have that scramble ready to show?
We do. Okay. Like I did last week, I'm probably going to read these words out just for the audio show.
Yeah.
But if you want to see it, you can always just watch our broadcast of this when we put it up on YouTube or live stream, whatever, to actually see it. So
I already got them figured out.
Me too.
It's last week. It's
difficult.
No, it's not difficult. Okay. It has to do with what we're talking about, Alaska, and specifically. So the first word is, and this is going to be scrambled. So it's AWASGYK. Second word is CKKNTEHIA, and then the third word is UJNUAE. So unscramble those. Yep. And enter them on our website.
And you can go to disunplugged.com/contest.
Contest, yes.
And that's where you can find these words again if you miss them.
And that page will be up after this broadcast is over.
That's right. I'm excited to see how people do with these contests and see who's Now that we've presented the contest and our little scramble there, we do have a video that Craig has put together just to kind of introduce to you kind of an overview of what we did while we were on the cruise. So we want to take a look at that real quick. Craig's video. All right. Well, thank you for that, Craig. that kind of sums up just some of the beautiful places.
What would? Oh my god!
Yeah, because before that video, it's not high on my list, of places to go. I'd like to visit one day, but seeing that, it just looks so quaint and cute.
It does.
Yeah. No,
and beautiful.
It's absolutely beautiful. Some of those ports, those cities are just really cool.
Julie, I thought exactly like you before my first trip to Alaska. The first time we did it, actually, it was Chris and I, and we did it with my parents because my dad and Chris really wanted to go to Alaska. And we both thought, my mom and I both were like, we live in Canada. Why do we need to go look at icebergs and cold weather? It didn't make sense to us. So we said, okay, we'll do it, but we're going to do it on a cruise ship so we can do other things like spa and things like that. And so we went. And the first morning when we arrived in Ketchikan was our first stop that time. And I opened up my blinds and I was just in love. I couldn't believe what I was seeing outside. And after that cruise, all I thought about was how I can get back. So the next year we went again with Disney. And I was exactly like you. I thought this really just isn't on my short list. Maybe someday when I'm a senior, I'll go. But man, it was like nothing I've ever experienced.
Okay. I mean, I agree with you. It's one of those things where you just do not expect. I don't know. You just don't know what your expectations are. And as I'm looking back at some of that footage and some of the things that you guys experienced that I didn't experience, it is just absolutely, absolutely beautiful. And like Tracy said, I want to get back there as soon as possible. I can't tell you, it's great. But we started off our experience coming off the heels of our Alani trip, and so we were taking a flight out of Hawaii, and ended up in where did we fly into?
Yeah, it was tough. So we left Honolulu, I think, late at night, so like at 9 p.m., and then we landed in Seattle first, early in the morning. So we kind of flew overnight.
Oh, right.
And then we had like a small plane from Seattle to Vancouver, and it was like a little puddle jumper kind of thing.
It was this plane, it was like an Airbus or whatever they call it. It was this plane that was two rows of two, and but instead of jet engines, they had propellers, and it was the loudest thing you've ever heard in your life, and the scariest thing to see because those propellers are going as you walk up to the plane, and
it was
bizarre.
Well, that was the scary part of it. Like, I've only done it once before, where you actually don't walk through the whatever it's called, the jetway.
Oh, you're boarding from outside.
Yeah, I've only done it once before.
I like that, though.
I do too.
It's so old world.
It makes you feel like a celebrity.
Yeah, whenever I fly into Santa Barbara, that's how it's like. Because my parents used to live out there.
I want to put on gloves.
It's very fancy. Yeah.
But
it was so scary.
But when we got into Vancouver, I mean, we didn't have like a hotel or anything. It was fly from Hawaii and get right on the ship. Oh. It was bizarre.
It worked out well. I mean, there was no like lag time, and then
I think that's what happened to us on our Mediterranean cruise. We flew to Barcelona and then we got immediately on the ship.
We were exhausted.
Yeah, we were exhausted. Yeah. Disney, we had to just because of the timing, we had to stick around the airport for a little while. Yeah. But Disney had arranged transfers for us, so we were able to take a bus from the airport in Vancouver over to the port, and the embarkation process there was kind of crazy. I mean, it was like everybody was huddled in one place, and then they let us all go. Yeah, and we all had to go through customs at like the exact same time.
That was the weird part. The customs, we had to.
Yeah.
So Disney doesn't have their own designated terminal there.
No,
it's shared with other.
It is joint.
It's called Canada Place.
So it's a different type of
bunch
it's actually really urban. So we were just across the street from the hotel we actually stayed on when we came back. But you're like right in the city. I mean, you could walk to the the center of the town to downtown from the port. So it's like it's an odd experience because I'm so used to Port Canaveral where it's the only thing out there is the cruise ship terminals. Unless you want to go to Coco,
or the Welcome Center.
Or the Welcome Center, yeah. But yeah, this was very very downtown urban.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
And as we got on the ship, like I said, the whole customs process was really long. It was really nice though. Certain customs agents were going out and they were seeing folks that had war veteran hats on and stuff, and were pulling them aside. Said, "Guy, why don't you guys come to the front of the line?" So I thought that was
that's nice.
Yeah, that was really nice.
It was a huge line, but I did feel like it moved fairly quickly. I mean, they divided you because you had to be in a certain line between whether you were a U.S. citizen or
something
not,
else.
I guess.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly.
Canadian?
I remember,
maybe.
Well, I mean, there were other people. I mean, they weren't just the two. It wasn't only open
I know,
to. Yeah. But I remember they were pulling out. They were making sure that Americans were in a certain line.
Right.
And then so.
Extra screening.
What's that, Tracy?
Extra screening for those Americans.
Yeah, that's what it was. But yeah, once we got through that big line, then it got a lot easier because we went straight on the ship.
But it was a overcast day. It was kind of rainy. We got on the ship, and I had never been on the older, smaller ships before, the Magic or the
really?
Wonder. I don't know.
Really?
What do I say? What is politically correct? The classic.
Classic. Yeah.
Classics.
Classic ships.
So I love those ships just as much. Be careful.
What'd you think of it?
I'm going into a good space here. No, I thought just first walking in after being on the Dream and the Fantasy, seeing the atrium, being on the Dream and the Fantasy, it reminded me of those ships, and I love the Disney Cruise Line, and this was awesome. That my first impression of the ship was really good.
Dustin, before you go on too far, can I talk about transportation for a minute?
Sure.
I've had a lot of clients mention to me about trying to get flights into Vancouver and how, it's easier, obviously, if you're flying within the U.S., talking about my U.S. clients. Couple things to do. The first thing you want to do is you want to check the 2 Canadian airlines when you're looking for flights. You want to check Air Canada, and that's just aircanada.com, or WestJet as well, westjet.com. Both will be affiliated with American counterparts as well, but often you'll find their flights into the Canadian cities may be a little bit more efficient than what you're finding with the U.S. airlines. Also, I've heard from many guests who have flown into Seattle and then taken a train or a shuttle from Seattle into Vancouver. Wow. I know Amtrak has a schedule that coincides with the cruise departure schedules. So just a couple of options there. I know flight prices is often a discussion that I have with my clients around cruising out of Vancouver. Also, transportation from port. If you're not using Disney Cruise Line, typically a taxi will be your best bet, but you want to be aware in Vancouver. Vancouver is a very conscientious city. What's the word I'm looking for? Very earthy. So a lot of the taxis will be alternate fuel,
right,
electric,
green.
So they'll often be smaller vehicles. So it may mean you have to wait for a couple cars to come by for something bigger to hold your luggage. Based on where the location of the airport is and the port, often a taxi is your best value as well.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Now, I mean, we like I said, we took the Disney shuttle bus, and that worked out fine. But those are some great options as well. As far as the day the ship's leaving, you know how they have they usually have the party out on deck, the sail away party. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I was talking about the weather. It was kind of rainy that day. I don't know if that's a normal thing to be expected on these Alaska cruises, but at least when we went in late May, early June, it was still kind of rainy and overcast, and ours got moved inside.
We were inside. Just for reference, though, when we came back to Vancouver, the cruise that left just after us, that was beautifully sunny, and so it was happening out on the upper deck. So I'm sure it's just
it can happen here. We had an indoor sail away party on a recent podcast cruise. I remember.
But when Dustin said weather, I mean, it's crazy. Like the fog, you can't see anything. So I feel like we didn't even see Vancouver because it was just covered in fog. Until we came back, and then it was bright,
beautiful.
Nice,
yeah. But
you guys sailed in May as well, right? You were one of the first sailings.
I think we were the first. The first sailing.
Yeah, you'll see the weather change quite a bit as well. Like when you're sailing, May is the entry level of the season, and then September be the end. That's when the pricing is usually the best for Alaska. Reason being that the weather isn't at its most ideal. So as you get farther into June, definitely into July and August, you're going to find the temperatures will be more in the 60 to 70 range, and a lot less of what you experienced.
Okay. Now this isn't going to be like a review of the Disney Wonder. This is more about the Alaska portion, obviously. But I did want to kind of touch on state Alaska cruise. As far as Disney Cruise Line is concerned, you probably are going to want to look at staterooms. If you're thinking about getting a stateroom that does have a veranda, then you're going to want to look at the starboard side verandas, because as you're pulling into Tracy Arm Fjord and going through there, and then you see the glacier. That's the side of the ship that you're going to get the best view. I mean, he does rotate the ship.
Yeah, and just from a perspective, we didn't have a veranda. So Craig and I we were We had an inside stateroom, and honestly, it would have been nice to be able to sit out on the veranda, but I think we didn't lose anything from just going upstairs to the upper decks. So
you just couldn't do it in your bathroom.
If it's a luxury, yeah, exactly. If it's a luxury you want, I definitely would recommend it. But you're not going to lose anything because there's so many opportunities to go upstairs and see.
That's the way I felt about the med cruise. I had an inside stateroom, but I don't think I lost anything because you're still going to be able to see it all. Just Well, but if it's a cost issue, take the inside stateroom and go. Right. That's the only way you can
But if you want to sit out there and eat like wine and cheese and be fancy. And
I have to say, there's nothing like opening up your curtains and seeing like a beautiful mountain or, beachscape.
Exactly.
Yeah. I can imagine how great it would be, but Sean and I were spending all of our time on deck anyways.
Yeah.
So I feel like we would have been a waste having that nice veranda stateroom because we are always up there. We are always walking around. We are always off the ship whenever we had the chance. Like, it just would have been a waste for us, but it would have been.
It was work. I mean, that's why.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, while we're talking about staterooms, I don't know, Tracy or Teresa. I mean, are we seeing any kind of values for this season or next season?
Well, I checked out some pricing. There's still availability for the 7-night in August. Of the sailings in August, you can get an inside stateroom for just over $3,200. You can get an ocean view for $3,800 and up.
Right.
So that would be the 1st of August. Middle of August, it gets a little bit pricier. On up to like a veranda would be going for $5,700 starting at, if they're still available. Next year, I think the best value. I don't know about you, Tracy, but there's a 9-night. I think it's the starter one, May 24th of next year. You can get an inside stateroom for just a little over $2,800.
Wow!
For 9 nights, that's a pretty good deal, I think.
Again, this kind of goes back to what we were just saying. You see that price, and if that's what's scaring you off from doing this, that you have to have a veranda. There's plenty of time for you to get out.
Yeah, I mean, you can go. Obviously, you can go higher end, but I think the verandas are going to go first. Don't you think, Tracy?
Yeah, and what happens with the verandas, everybody seems, within Alaska and a med cruise, people who don't normally buy verandas or purchase verandas would do so on those cruises. I have cruised both. Actually, most of my cruises, I cruise inside. But in Alaska, my first one was with a veranda. The second one was without. And you'll also notice the price difference on a veranda over an ocean view or inside is considerably more on an Alaska cruise than it is, say, on a Caribbean. So they know they're in high demand. That's when you're paying the highest dollar. And I would completely agree with you guys who said, if an inside cruise is what the budget is at, then don't wait. I hear people say all the time, I'm going to wait till I can afford a veranda. I honestly believe that many people who aren't typically sailing veranda cabins would get enough value out of that veranda to warrant the extra cost. And that 9-night that you're talking about, Teresa, next May, that one stops in Sitka in addition to the other ports, and that's a really unique itinerary. That would be one I'd really like to do, and really good value. 9 nights starting at $2,800.
Wow,
that is a deal though. Yeah. Really, that's for 2 people.
Yeah.
So,
do you know where Sitka is? It's from The Proposal with Ryan Reynolds and Sandra Bullock.
Oh, it is.
It is.
Is that where they go? Huh?
Sitka.
That would be so fun.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Okay.
Cool.
And Jessica, I just want to add one more thing about verandas. On the classic ships, they do have the Navigator veranda. So if you're sailing to Alaska in early season May or late season September, the Navigator may be an option for somebody who still wants the outside view. But those are the ones with the large porthole that's open air to outside. So it would block some of that wind and weather for you. So if you're kind of thinking entry-level veranda, the Navigator on the classic ships may be definitely something to consider. That's the category 7As, and they're at the aft of the ship.
Okay.
And they're adorable. I think they're absolutely adorable.
It's a great option.
Are those what we saw in the hallway across from us, or is that a different thing?
I don't remember actually.
It's like it's got a little veranda, but it's like almost enclosed. Mm-hmm. So it's like an outside room.
Yeah, it might be actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really cute.
Were you guys in the aft of the ship, Sean?
Yeah, we were in the aft.
Yeah, they would be the 7As that you would have seen directly across from you. They're like a nautical theme outside, and then it looks like a big porthole, but it doesn't have glass in it. It's open to the outside.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to talk about just a few things with the Wonder. I think it's important to mention that as far as dining is concerned, we had incredible experiences in both Palo and in the dining rooms. I know that the Wonder had not such great reviews on their food recently, but
Well, we had dinner in all three dining rooms, actually, except for Animator's Palette.
Right.
We missed out on that night. And then we didn't eat dinner at Beach Blanket Buffet either.
We had lunch
but we had
there.
lunch there. And it's super cramped in that buffet. Like coming off the big ships now, like Fantasy and Dream.
It's little.
And so we were coming, actually, this was part of our
Oh, yeah, we had all our luggage.
process.
I mean, we had like 17 bags. And
Because we
we're
had all
in
the
that buffet.
equipment stuff for the shows. And so we're going through this buffet and trying to find a place to sit. And it was awful. Yeah. It's just very cramped. But there's outside seating and stuff too. But yeah, overall the dining was really good.
We ate at Palo a lot. We were at Palo a lot. And
Yeah, we did.
That was, yeah.
I just don't understand because you're not really getting, I mean, the experience like, that other guests are going to get.
Of course.
'Cause not everyone's going to eat at
But we
Palo
had dinner
every
at
night.
Triton's. We had dinner at Parrot Key.
Whatever you want to call it.
I don't know exactly. But
Key.
Okay, Parrot Key. I thought the food all over the ship, Palo, dining rooms, buffet, and then any of the fast or quick service stuff.
we actually ate there a lot too for lunches and stuff.
Yeah.
Just the quick little things like Pinocchio's Pizza. And
Yeah.
Pizza, chicken
Goofy's
nuggets, stuff
Galley.
like that. So I just wanted to throw that in there because the main point, the main thing I want to talk about on this show is just the scenery, the ports, the whole vibe of this Alaska experience that you go on with Disney Cruise Line. Starting with, as you're leaving, you're leaving Vancouver, and everything you're kind of far off from the coast. Everything's very small, and for us it was very rainy, very cloudy, and then all of a sudden you start to see more stuff. You start to see land getting a little bit closer as you're making your way up the coast and into the Inside Passage. But
Well, the thing I remember most from that whole point was we all started freaking out maybe about 3 hours into the sailing.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden we started seeing everything, and it was a mile off in the distance, and we thought it was super close. And Pete just kept sitting there saying, like, "Wait till tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're getting excited about nothing. The real stuff's about to come."
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Oh, he painted such a picture of what this experience was going to be like, and he was absolutely dead on. And I'll kind of hit on some of that stuff in a minute. But when you think about Caribbean, cruising in the Caribbean, you always go, "Oh, look, at night, there's some little lights over there. You see, there's an island." I mean, this is just even early on, it's big chunks of land that you're seeing, and it's absolutely beautiful.
So at night, was it like pitch black?
Yes, because as you're going up, you're starting to see less cell phone towers, less.
Right.
Yeah, although
lights.
it stayed light out really late.
Yes.
I think sunset was
are
like
you
at
guys-
10:30 or
Well, I was
11.
about to say, you're maybe there in the time period where it's daylight all the time. 'Cause they
No,
have
we weren't- it wasn't quite
6 months
that
of
bad.
light, 6 months of dark, right?
What was it, like 18 hours?
I don't think it works like that.
I mean, it wasn't.
Some places
Yeah, it does.
do. Yeah.
I'd say the sunset wasn't till it would be dark at about 10:30.
10.
Yeah,
Because
so
that's
I think there's
whenever-
18 hours of
Yeah.
daylight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that threw me off a little bit.
It's
I know
beautiful,
people that
though.
live there, so
Yeah.
But let's see. Our first stop was Tracy Arm.
Yeah, so it wasn't
right?
even really it wasn't a port. It's
Yeah.
just basically it's day at sea, but you're going to the Tracy Arm.
Right.
And so almost the sail there was just as impressive as getting to the actual glacier, because you're passing like these huge mountains, and it actually got pretty close in
Yeah.
parts. Like
we're like Titanic.
well, 'cause Craig and I really noticed this funny thing happening because we were on the very top deck, and we would be on one side of the ship, like starboard, and then we'd be looking at our stuff, and then we'd turn around, and it looked as though we were going to hit the other side. And so we'd run over there, and then we realized, oh, wait, we're not really that close. But then we looked back, and it looked like we were close on that side. So it was kind of this optical illusion.
Yeah.
Do you have a video of that? I would like to see that. Guys running back and forth.
I mean, no, actually, I do, but you're not going to see it.
The interesting thing about these sailings, at least for the 7 nights, is that that is 3 days before you actually hit a port. I mean, technically, Tracy Arm is the first stop, but you're not getting off the ship. It's just a glacier that you're going up to check out, which is beautiful. And
So I didn't realize that. So you didn't actually get off.
you do not get off the ship at
float
Tracy
past.
Arm.
There's nowhere to get off, really.
I believe other cruise lines offer smaller boats that can get up closer to the glacier, but I don't believe Disney Cruise Line does that. So you're not getting off the ship, and I just want to kind of try to explain this experience going through the Inside Passage. In fact, when we close the show today, I'm going to have a video that I did of the Inside Passage, and you'll see. And Craig had a little bit of that in his video as well. But the way Pete described it to me is that everything starts off kind of like black and white and far off in the distance. There's not a lot of color. There's a lot of clouds. Things are off in the distance. It's very dark. And as you get closer and you start seeing little specks of color, whether it be in the green of the trees that you're getting closer to on the side of you, or the blue fragments of the glacier and icebergs, they're just jet blue. It's crazy. And then and there's a picture up there. You kind of see how close we get to some of these pieces of land as we make our way further through the Inside Passage. The clouds started to recede. Mm-hmm. You saw the blue skies, the kind of green of the water, and the green and brown of the land that's right up next to you.
And so the cool part about these days when we're actually sailing in the Inside Passage was almost everyone on the ship is outside on the top decks.
Oh, yeah.
And they're looking at everything, and I don't think it's the captain. There was like a guy that would come over the intercom.
They had a naturalist, mm-hmm. And I believe he knew a lot about the local area. So he was pointing out different wildlife, different...
So he'd come on and explain things. He would explain some of the history. He'd explain kind of the geography of it. And then if he did see some wildlife, they would spot it. And they had a camera, too. So they would film it and put it on the big Jumbotron on the... what is it?
Cool.
What's it called? I forget the name of the...
The Dumbotron?
Is that what it's called?
Not on these ships,
no, but you know what I mean. The big screen on the...
giant screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funnel vision thing.
Yeah, funnel vision.
That's what it's called.
Funnel vision.
Yeah. So it was really cool. And then actually in this picture here, in the distance is Tracy Arms. So this is as we were approaching. And another interesting thing, like I said, the naturalist was talking. There were parts of this where the ship couldn't make noise because it's like a preserve. And so they had to be super quiet because it would disturb like the habitat.
Would there be like a break off of the ice? And
I think that might have been part of it. But at the same time, like we passed a lot of wildlife along the way.
Yeah.
So we saw... seals, like you could see in the video that I made. Mm-hmm. There was like Eagle Island that we passed at one point in time. There was like an eagle preserve, and here's a cute little seal or sea lion. I don't know what the difference is.
And it's looking right at my camera.
But you saw those. There was bears along the side as well too. So,
and everybody out on deck had binoculars or cameras, just checking out the scenery.
Okay, here's my question. Talking about that, were these things for sale in the merchandise, or did you have to bring your own?
The animals?
No, the binoculars.
Binoculars were sold not only at the port when you first got there, but they also sell them in the gift shops.
Okay,
on board.
I was wondering. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This doesn't sound very kid friendly. I don't think my kids would enjoy just standing and looking at.
I don't think little kids, but maybe
No.
I think Stella would enjoy this. Now, so Disney's not shooting up this passage, blaring their horn and partying down.
No.
So that's kind of what I pictured.
It's very tranquil.
And you're going really slow, actually, in certain parts. Because, I mean, you can't make a wake or anything because you're in, like, this really still water with land on either side.
Can you hear ice cracking?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, when we got close to Tracy Arm, you could actually see it falling off.
Yeah. And that's another thing I wanted to mention is when you first start the cruise, you're out in the open ocean. And then it was still relatively smooth compared to the Caribbean. But, there was some rocking motion. Once we got in the Inside Passage, I mean, it was just dead still.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't know that there was any rocking or anything. It was crazy. I'm just not used to that on cruise lines.
Sorry, to go back to kids, one thing I wanted to note is when Sean and I were standing on deck 10 for the Inside Passage, what I noticed was we were right beside the Mickey pool. So a lot of people were
Mickey
just like
pool?
having their kids play in the pool while they were standing and watching.
Yeah.
Did I
That's
say
good.
pool
Don't
wrong?
watch your children
Pool?
swim.
Pool? I don't know.
And the
Mickey
pools,
pool.
the pools are climate controlled or temperature controlled.
Well, I would hope.
Yeah, and sometimes you could see the steam coming off of them.
Oh wow.
Yeah, a lot of people in hot tubs too.
There's a number of programs on this cruise for kids. They have naturalists in the kids clubs as well. They have activities going on, as well as a lot of the shore excursions. Now, the first day, Tracy Arm is very scenic cruising. After that, we're stopping in ports and getting off. But a lot of the excursions do offer youth activity as well. But I will say, in Tracy Arm, that was the first place when I did my Disney cruise to Alaska where I really saw the Disney difference. The first cruise I did with another cruise line, we did go to Tracy Arm as well, but we were going to another port in the afternoon. So we kind of got in there, we kind of got up a little bit far. You could see it off a little bit in the distance. But then, and not even that close as the picture you're showing now. And it was like, oh, wow, this is really cool, blah, 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 blah. When we did it with Disney, They took the entire day. And every time I thought there's no possible way they could go further, the captain would, manipulate with the pilot on board, would manipulate that ship a little bit more, and we'd get even closer. Mm-hmm. And so in talking to some of the crew afterwards, they said that's one thing with Disney. They made sure they had the whole day. They made sure they had nowhere else to be that day so they could take their time, because it is a lot of navigating in and around, watching tide levels, watching, what else is happening in the water, and making sure they can get close. We were so close to that glacier with Disney that I swear I felt like I could touch it. And with the previous cruise experience I had, it was off in the distance. It was like, oh, wow, this is neat, but it was off in the distance. It didn't feel like I was a part of that experience.
And when you're up as close as Disney gets to it, you realize how massive this thing is and how old it must be to have just carved itself into that mountain like that. It's absolutely gorgeous. It is the payoff of that beautiful scenic day. And I'm talking like some of the stuff you saw in Craig's video earlier. It's like you're taking a cruise through the Lord of the Rings. It's wild. It's
an excursion to Mordor.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say
Wild Alaska.
It's just absolutely,
yes, really. It's called Alaska. Wow,
absolutely epic. And if you at all are interested or love nature in any way, or think that nature is beautiful, especially untouched nature, you're going to love this. This is.
I had no expectations for Tracy Arm. I knew it was a glacier, but I didn't know what it looked like, or I didn't look it up ahead of time, and so I kind of just went with an open mind. I didn't know what we were going to see, but it was really cool, and I was surprised at how icy the water was, and how many chunks broke off. From the glacier. It was a little Titanic at a couple spots. You could see the icebergs in the water. But obviously we're not going fast, so we did hit it a couple, like, small chunks. We're not hitting big things, but the ship just makes them move, I guess. But yeah, it's beautiful, and I don't know. Like I said earlier, when you're watching it, you can see chunks break off, and they make this big splash.
Oh, I would love this.
We stayed. I think we were there for like an hour.
For Alaska.
He spun around and
he
spun around.
The first thing to note is I didn't know anything about it. I didn't even know what Tracy Arm was. I didn't know it was a glacier.
You were there.
I was there. I didn't do any research going into it. And like the one thing that Sean and I did, we went down to our stateroom once for maybe 30 seconds to like switch out equipment. But other than that, we were on deck for, I'd say, at least 6 hours straight.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Like, because it takes a while to get up there, and there are so many things that you're seeing along the way that you just can't move. Yeah. And then once you get there, you are there for about an hour as the boat turns around, because it does
You're heading back out to the outside passage so you can make your way to the next port, which was Skagway.
Skagway was the first one.
Yes. Skagway was So, Skagway's awesome. What do you guys think?
I loved it. We had an excursion that day. So we got off in the morning and walked around the town. And it's kind of like this old Western town.
It is.
It's really interesting. There's lots of shops and kind of dining things, restaurants and things like that, coffee shops.
Is it rugged?
I was about to say, where's the photo?
Yeah.
Fudge, Teresa Fudge.
Look, fudge.
Skagway.
A lot of jewelry.
More importantly,
a lot of fudge.
Skagway Brewing Company is in that photo.
Yeah.
This was one of the most interesting stops because they tried to mix that old Alaskan prospector feel with the tourist attractions.
That looks kind of touristy.
Yeah.
It is.
Like we said, there's a lot of jewelry shops. There's a lot of knick-knack kind of stuff.
Are there real, like, Alaskan people standing around? Or
the people that live there
they're
work
Alaskan.
there. Yeah.
Well, but are they like, okay, don't laugh at me. I hear you laughing, Tracy. But I'm just saying, is it like, I don't want to see tourist stuff. I want to see the real, what's really there.
Well, the place
You'll see some books.
Yeah, the place that we were at was on this main strip, and it's like you said, it's set up like an old Western prospect town. And there's this main street, and then wooden slat sidewalks on either side, and all these old buildings and shops and stuff. But I'm sure if you continue to explore, you would find. It seemed mostly like neighborhoods beyond the main street area. But it was cool.
Yeah, Sean and I walked a little bit off path, and like we went back by the houses real quick, We also even kind of went and found like little abandoned areas that I'm not sure we are supposed to be going into.
Oh, see, that's what I like.
That's what I'm into as well.
Okay.
And so there are places that you can go to get away from it and just kind of like look at nature. But I think a lot of the way at each stop to get away from the tourist stuff is to actually do the tourist stuff and do the excursions, because those take you to the true places that you're not going to see anywhere else.
Yeah, but it was nice though because the port is incredibly close to the downtown area we just showed you. I mean, it's just like a 5-10 minute walk down the side of the ship, and you're right there. It's incredibly close. You can see it from the main street. You see the ship right there. It's wild. But we found our favorite place in Skagway was, like you said, the Skagway Brewing Company.
Yeah, we had lunch there.
We're not really surprised.
Yeah.
Really? Oh my. Do tell.
I'm wearing their shirt right now. They it was really nice, small kind of.
They brew their own
pub. They do, and they different ones. So like they had an IPA, they had an amber, they were brown, and they designed labels for each one, and they sold merchandise for each one. So if you had a favorite, you got to buy the stuff that corresponded with your favorite beer. So it was really cool, and the food was great.
The food was good. Yeah,
we had lunch there. It was absolutely. It's all the way down at the end of the street. So I'm
curious, like if there was a lot of seafood. Or like elk burger.
Bison burger.
I remember more seafood in Ketchikan.
Yeah, Ketchikan was more like that.
So I don't know if it's because it's more of a fishing town.
Seal ravioli or something.
Yeah, I know.
Oh God.
I don't know. Well, I'm just curious if if those kinds of things are actually eaten.
Suppose.
Like I know, like Eskimos, like the oil and the skins and the meat, they use that for stuff. But I wasn't sure if like the real local people that live in that town.
Yeah, I had a burger and fries.
Was it an elk burger?
No.
Burger and fries.
It wasn't as adventurous as I thought. When we were in Juneau, we got reindeer meat. That was about as
that's
crazy
pretty interesting.
as it got.
Actually, now that you say that, though, when we were on our excursion, the guy brought snacks, and that was the caribou sausage.
Yeah, he brought caribou
good?
sausage and salmon pate.
You guys want to talk about your excursion a little bit?
Yeah, I do actually. That was like one of my favorite things that we did in Alaska. We did the Jeep, the Yukon Jeep Klondike Adventure, which was an excursion, and I think it said it took like a big block of time, like 4.5 hours.
It was about 4 to 5 hours.
Yeah, 4 to 5. And it was like $164 a person.
Jeep.
Yeah, and you have to be older than 8.
Yeah, you have to be 8 or older if you want to ride along, and you have to be 25 or older with a valid driver's license to drive, and you also have to have a passport, because the catch of it is that you start off in Skagway, but then you drive through into Canada, into Yukon territory. So you drive a good hour and a half away to get to like all the stuff you're seeing.
And that was mainly on a highway. The drive there was mainly highway. And then once you got to this place called Carcross, which is in Yukon, it's kind of the small town. You kind of stop, and that's where we had the snack and the water. And then from there, you go on this off-road course. And that was
awesome.
that was the most fun. Well, I mean, it was different than the driving on the highway. It's really bumpy. You're driving over rocks. There's some water. You put it into 4-wheel drive, and you just go crazy.
And you were who was driving?
Craig, weren't you?
Craig drove. Oh, we both did. We split it evenly. We were very careful.
It was just the two of you in the vehicle?
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing that we should mention, like I have a video going up on YouTube of it, but Sean and I did this alone because Pete was having his back problems. This would have been the worst thing if you had back problems, just to say it. Like, don't do it if you have any sort of medical issues. But yeah, we went on it together, and we were in the back car, and then we had a guide with us, because when they had like 8 or more cars in a convoy, they had to have a guide at the front and then in the back as well. So we had our guide with us, and he knew we wanted to take pictures and stuff. So he kind of asked the lead guide if we could break off from the pack and kind of do our own thing. So we stayed with everyone.
That's nice.
He was awesome. His name was Craig.
Yeah.
Break off from the
So
convoy.
you had Craig squared.
We did have Craig squared.
Double Craig.
And it was, I mean, we got a one-of-a-kind experience. I bet no one else gets it, which, I mean, we didn't get any privileges.
And honestly, the way it happened was the guy that's in the first vehicle does kind of like an audio tour. So there's kind of a radio in every Jeep. And you're supposed to turn it on, and as you drive past things, it'll say, oh, there's where Donald Trump's uncle won his money or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is the real story.
Yeah.
Donald Trump's fortune came from Yukon, I think.
Exactly.
His great-grandfather, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. Yukon Cornelius.
You got Cornelius.
So anyway, our radio was broken, so we couldn't hear any of this audio tour. So since we had Craig, the other guide, in our car, he kind of was doing it for us. And then once he found out what we were doing with the pictures and the video, he kind of customized it and let us go off the road sometimes and go stop at special places, which was great.
So get the guide in your car.
Exactly.
I remember you guys coming back, and your impression of this was the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life.
Honestly. Yeah. I was going through the pictures this past week, and just things that I never imagined seeing. Mountains and lakes. There was snow on all the mountains. And, I mean, like, it's just beautiful.
Yeah. I've been to Colorado before, so I've seen the Rockies, everything like that, but this was just unreal. Like, because a lot of this land is completely untouched except for the road that travels through, because it's supposed to be the same road that the old prospectors used to walk to get to
Probably
the Yukon, and they just kind of paved over it, but it really is just this untouched land as you're driving through. That's where we saw the 2 bears that were in my video.
Okay.
And they were right up beside the car. They didn't really, they didn't get close to us or anything. They kind of just did their own thing.
They were cute.
But, they were there, and the one was a really big bear. And we were stopped on the road for a while, and our guide, Craig, told us, he's like, okay, we probably want to keep moving, because this thing was
They'll
massive.
attack the car.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But, no, it's just, some of the stuff we saw was just, it's too much for words.
I'm just trying to imagine the two of you going, oh my God, look at that. Oh my God, look at that. You guys were freaking out.
Well, it was funny. The way we did it was because I was doing photos and Craig was doing video. And so he drove the way up. I did photos on the way up.
Okay.
Then we switched halfway. And then he took video out the passenger window while I drove.
Okay.
And so we had the windows open the whole time. And it got a little cold.
It did.
I would imagine so.
But I'm so glad we had the windows open because it just was such a cool experience.
Yeah, having the windows down and being freezing just kind of really added on to the whole, like, feeling like you're there. And no, it was great. I would love to go back and do it again.
Well, take me next time.
I'm driving
I'm sure
now.
you're high on his list of people to take
Did
with
you guys?
them. Hey.
Do you guys have any other impressions of Skagway before we move over to Juneau? Or?
I just wanted to add one thing, if I
Sure.
could, Dustin. You were talking about people with back problems and stuff, maybe not wanting to do the Jeeps. There is another excursion, the White Pass Railway. We had done that, and it goes really a very similar route to what they had driven with the Jeeps, ends in Carcross as well, and then turns around and comes back.
Okay.
And it's a train ride, and so you get to see a lot of the same scenery. They do have youth activities on there as well, so it is one of those excursions that has a youth component to it. And it was very interesting as well. Same narration, you got to see a lot of the same things, a lot of the animals along the way. Same thing, you want to always have your passport and your photo ID with you. You are crossing into Canada, you are going through BC and then into the Yukon. Now on the train, you're not getting off. Nobody's going to actually ask to see the passport. But however, if something had have happened, along the way, you would definitely want to have your passport with you. And the guys on our trip had done a golf excursion. I don't think Disney is offering it, but very similar. And I also wanted to mention for all of these ports, well, the ship excursions and the excursions that Disney is offering, a lot of them are very good. They've really gone above and beyond for excursions in these ports. And traveling with the ship and doing excursions with the ship is always kind of the safest route to go. But there are also a lot of private companies in these ports as well that are doing some pretty phenomenal things. So if you are a little bit more on the adventurous side, you may want to look into that as an option as well.
Okay. That's good. I mean, I wouldn't even know where to start with that. I usually go through the Disney pamphlet first, but yeah.
Oh, you need a travel agent, Dustin.
Ah, there we go. Okay. Cool. Well, as we move along to Juneau, we had some interesting mishaps there.
Well, it was mostly just the weather.
Yeah.
We had an excursion planned, which was going to be the helicopter
Right.
and dog musher excursion.
Exactly.
So it would have included taking a helicopter to the glacier, getting off, and then doing dog sledding or mushing, I guess is the...
You didn't do that?
When
No, we
we
couldn't.
pulled
So-
into Juneau that morning, you couldn't see outside. You couldn't see 3 feet in front of you. It was so foggy, and they had to cancel. The helicopters couldn't take off.
Pete had done that on a previous
Yes.
cruise.
Yeah, he
I
did one.
think. Yeah.
But it worked out really well, though. So the way they did it, they handled it really nice. They waited till the very last minute because they really wanted you to go. Obviously, I mean,
Yeah.
you had already paid and everything. So they waited till the very last minute to call it, and then once they knew we were at the table, they just let us know, and then we got a full refund afterwards. So no loss. We just didn't get to do the excursion that we'd wanted to, but it was handled really well. And then so we ended up just going off
Ended up being a rainy day in Juneau, and we walked around. We did some shopping, saw some interesting stuff.
Yeah, and it actually worked out really well for us that our excursion was canceled because that was the shortest of the port days. So had we gone on that, it would have been, we would have got off when it did our excursion. We would have got back on the ship and it would have left. We wouldn't have saw anything in Juneau at all.
Okay.
As you mentioned that, Craig, I want to bring something up because Disney is now sailing out of Vancouver. We're finding that your time in port is a lot longer in these ports than if you sailed out of Seattle, because there's more time in that whole cruise.
So what did you see in Juneau? You said you saw some interesting things, but you didn't elaborate.
A lot of shops.
Again, it's a lot of shopping.
A lot of bars.
Actually, a lot of beer. Alaskan Brewing Company is here, and they do free tours. So what you do is they have a store in town with merchandise and stuff, but they can't sell actually beer there. But they have a shuttle that will take you about 5 miles, I think it was, to the brewery. And you can do a tour and sample and see all that, where they make it. I mean, it's a pretty famous brewery too. So, and actually at this port, they installed a keg on the ship.
Yeah, we were on the ship and saw a guy wearing Alaska Brewing, and he's installing kegs out on deck.
That's
so
cool.
they brought the beer from that
brought in
brewery
local
company
beer
too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How about, I need to ask, so were there a lot of children on your cruise?
I wouldn't say a lot.
But there were children.
There were children. I remember seeing them.
Definitely children. I
One or
think
two.
they must have been in the kids clubs a lot of times.
I saw them on deck swimming, and especially on that first day or the second day on Tuesday.
What I'm asking, I guess I want to know, is when you're getting off the ship, obviously you felt safe.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Right? Unlike
everywhere.
I mean, these are
NASA, I never feel safe.
these are tourist locations. They are cruise ship ports, but they're also American cities,
right?
American towns, and you're going in, and these guys are, they're going to try to sell you jewelry. They're going to try to sell you, a paddle boat experience.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
they need
But they're
to make
very
a
friendly,
living.
though.
They're not
It never
pushy.
felt pushed around or anything like that. One thing I do want to say about Juneau, though, is you don't really, you can walk, but I think this is the port where we got off and then took a bus about, a few minutes to the center of town. And it was a lot easier. So just, it's not
walking
it was
distance
raining.
from the ship.
Yeah. So it's easy to just pick up a bus. They run every couple minutes. So.
Now, is this where you saw the furry panties?
Oh,
no, that was
Skagway.
Oh, it was.
Well, there was a woman's version and then a man's version.
What was it called again? The something, I can't remember.
It was the Duke in Skagway, and then I believe we did see the Duchess. I made it up, the Duchess in Juneau, but Juneau was my least favorite of the entire stuff. It wasn't that there wasn't a lot to do, and it was basically a city. So we found some bookshops. And
we went to bookstores.
Juneau's a pretty good size.
We actually went up to the Capitol, saw where that was, that building. We didn't go inside or anything, but we got to see it. And things like that.
With Juneau as well. Juneau is where a lot of the whale watching, some of your best whale watching on the cruise will be in Juneau.
I would do.
So we had done a whale watching excursion there as well. We actually had done it through the cruise line, through Disney. They have two different versions. They have one that uses a much bigger boat, and then one that uses a smaller boat where there was maybe 12 of us.
Whoa.
And so without having an excursion book, it really is a city. But the whale watching is phenomenal in Juneau.
Yeah. But you're right. When you go there, you can definitely tell it has a different kind of vibe than the other places. It's definitely more artsy, more stuff that you would find in a bigger city.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's cool to walk around, even if you don't have anything planned. It's really nice to just walk.
Did you eat in town?
Oh, actually, that's where we had the Red Dog Saloon.
Yeah, the Red Dog
There's kind of a
Saloon.
famous place.
Yeah.
It's close to the main area, and this is actually where the Glacier soap is too. That's pretty famous. That's really good soap. But the Red Dog, it's
like an old Western.
It's like
saloon.
an old saloon, and there's like
piano player.
There's a piano player, but the floor is like wood chips.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and
Like
the bathroom's kind of gross. But I mean, it was fun.
How about the food? Was the food
What did we
okay?
eat here? We had something.
That's
exotic.
where we
had
had
the
the
reindeer.
reindeer.
Okay, reindeer sausage. Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome, and you'll see it if you go. It's right off the.
Yeah.
If I get
I
next
would
time I
feel
go.
really bad eating a reindeer, would you?
It's just a deer.
Rudolph.
Worse than eating a cow, I don't think.
They don't fly. They don't
It's
fly
not
Santa.
dancer or
You don't have flying
Vixen.
cows.
So do we have anything else to add about Juneau?
Not really for
I don't.
Juneau.
Because I want to get to my favorite, which was Ketchikan.
Yeah.
And that was our next stop. That's the last port on this, Ketchikan. And what did we do there?
Honestly, the same thing that we did at every other place. We walked around. There were shops. There was food, and like I said, there was lots of seafood here. So I think we had scallops and fish and things like that. Lots of jewelry stores. It almost felt a little bit more Caribbean in that sense because they were kind of like Diamond International, those kind of stores here.
Gosh, I just wouldn't expect that, you know? I mean, because you're so far away from the Caribbean.
Actually, they were almost at every port, I think. But they're pretty big in Alaska.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we found, like you said, we found a seafood place that we ate at, and we started exploring town a little bit, and we came across this street that it's right on like a creek or a river.
Yeah.
And it's all these shops, all these like jewelry shops and knicky-knack shops, but they're all on stilts on this creek. And there's waterfalls, so it's this whole thing where there's houses and shops on stilts, and you saw some of that in the video earlier. It is the coolest thing.
It is cool, and I think we referenced it actually in the show we did on the ship. This was the place where, when the town of Ketchikan actually banned prostitution, they pushed it past the river, past the creek.
Okay.
And so all these houses built on the stilts were like the whorehouse. Brothels, yes.
There
That's
you
the
go.
better word.
Or you bring your little bag of gold and get what you want for it.
Yeah. So it was funny because I was taking pictures, and they're really cute. They're painted all different, like red and green, and they're on stilts, and there's cool shops. And then I actually read the signs that were everywhere, and I was like, oh, this was Betty's house. And I was like, oh, okay.
See, that's interesting, though, because that's true, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So
it was definitely interesting. Yeah.
Ketchikan is also home to a pretty famous excursion, the Lumberjack Show.
Yeah, it was popular.
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to do that, but I mean, I think those book up pretty good. And it's the Lumberjack Show.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of our, they're on the boards, and we're friends with them, and their daughter, I can't remember her name, I feel so bad, but she was so excited about the Lumberjack Show, and apparently they go all around the country watching these lumberjack shows.
So it's like balancing on logs in water and throwing hatchets
and they cut
at
things
trees.
And they wear plaid and they have
I think
beards.
they race like up
They
do
big
that.
poles
Yeah.
wearing those weird
Yeah.
spiked shoes.
Right.
Yeah. That sounds cool.
Another big thing to mention, I don't know if you did, because I had to step out for a second, but this is also like the totem pole capital of...
Oh, yeah.
I don't know the world, but definitely Alaska. Like, there's
That's
4
scary.
totem pole parks that you can find all throughout there. So they're just everywhere. And basically the gift shops that you'll see in Ketchikan are half jewelry, and then the other half are like selling totem pole and other things made of the same wood.
Yeah, they had a lot of wood carving, things like
How
that.
about
Well, that'd be a
like
cool
native
souvenir.
people?
Yeah.
Local native
A
people.
lot of art, especially in that area I was describing to you. A lot of local and native inspired art.
Okay.
I don't know if the artists are actually native, but
Okay.
yeah, for sure. You can definitely find if you're going on these Alaska cruises, you'll definitely find native inspired art all over the place. Yeah. But Ketchikan was really cool. It had a really cool vibe. We got to explore a little bit. Did we have an excursion?
No, this was our free day.
Yeah,
We had
that
no
was a free
excursion
day.
planned, so
Well,
we just
Go ahead.
we just walked around. Actually, Craig went and got lost.
Oh, yes. Craig did
Yeah.
have his own excursion.
Well, I mean, I didn't really say anything about it before we started this segment, but this was my first cruise ever, so I didn't know what to expect going into it. Even though we did stop often, I was still starting to feel a little claustrophobic, always being stuck on the ship. So then when we were in Ketchikan, I just got off, and I walked about like just 3 miles up this hill, going through neighborhoods, and then eventually I came to this really nice hiking trail, and then I hiked.
Alone?
Yeah,
You're like trying to get away from everybody?
no, I wanted Sean to come with me, and he was hanging around with Pete and Dustin doing some shopping, so I just kind of went out.
I don't
by
remember
myself.
actively saying no to that.
No, I'm looking for a brewery. Okay.
No, I just
Well,
We found a bar.
yeah. Well, I mean,
But I'm interested. Did you talk to people? Were you just like out in wilderness or what?
it wasn't like I walked along a highway for, like I said, about 2-3 miles, and then finally I was following locals that were going hiking, so I followed them to this path, and then I walked up, and I was kind of perched, like I'd say a couple hundred feet high up on this the side of a hill, and on one side of me was like the city part of Skagway, and then on the left side was the port where all the boats were. So not Skagway, sorry, Ketchikan. So that's one thing to note too. Whenever you go to Ketchikan, you're seeing there's two different sections of it. There's the port where everyone gets off, and then there's the other side that has like actual skyscrapers that aren't really that tall.
Yeah.
But that's where you get a different feel for the whole.
That's where life goes on.
Yeah, we didn't make our way over there.
Exactly. I don't think anyone goes over there though, but it was cool to see, and it was a fun little 3-hour
Nobody
getaway.
goes over there.
Tracy, is there anything you want to add about Ketchikan before we move on?
Ketchikan was our favorite port.
Yeah.
We absolutely love it here. And just to hang out, no excursion, just to be Creek Street like you were talking about, just exploring around town and talking to people. Absolutely love Ketchikan. It's just a beautiful place to just be. It's fantastic.
Thank you. I don't know why I said thank you, like as if you were complimenting me.
Very nice.
Very nice. Thank you.
Lawrence Welk over there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyway, wow. Okay. So, I just want to kind of wrap things up here and mention again just the feel of this cruise and how absolutely beautiful in some of these ports are and these places you go to. It's just absolutely breathtakingly beautiful, and you're not going to see it anywhere else. This kind of nature, it's beautiful. And as we pulled back into Vancouver, I can't overlook this. We had booked a hotel with a post-night stay through Disney Cruise Line at the Fairmont, which is right across from the port. As we came back, spent a few nights there before we headed out to Los Angeles, and I just have to tell you, they call themselves up there with the Four Seasons, which I don't think is true. But as Pete mentioned on the show, when we were on the ship, we had quite an incident. They took all the luggage from everybody on our ship, the Disney ship, that was staying at the Fairmont, and took it to Bell Services. So they took care of our luggage, took it to the hotel, but instead of Bell Services getting all the luggage together and figuring it out, taking it to the appropriate rooms and all that, they left it outside around the corner of the building, out of sight of anybody that works there, all tied together with a rope bike lock for several hours. And Pete went to go talk to the manager there, and that didn't go well. So it took them quite a while to get that sorted out.
It's just so bizarre because that's not secure at all.
No.
It's not.
I know that they're locked up together, but it's so easy to just walk up there and unzip a suitcase
Someone
and pull
could
something
drive by
out.
with a kidnapper van and take all of those suitcases.
Oh,
It could have been
absolutely.
nipped. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Come on, this is
Call it a
Canada.
kidnapper van. Talking about this large.
It's Canada.
It's Canada.
Walk by and clean the luggage for you.
Oh, please. I've been through customs in Canada. I know how bad it is. Tracy, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Okay, so we're looking at the pricing for these cruises, which seems pretty amazing. Some of them is good pricing. But what about getting there? Airfare and hotels. How is that going to double my price just trying to get there?
It's, of course, going to depend on where you're coming from. You will find flying in and out of Canada probably to be a little bit more than what you're used to, just because of the extra taxes and departure taxes and things like that. So the flight in and out of Vancouver will be a little bit higher. As I said, you can go into Seattle and go Amtrak from there. But it's going to depend. If you're coming from the other side, if you're coming from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast where Vancouver is, you're probably going to be a little bit higher. I don't think you're going to double your cruise price. As far as hotels, I think the rates would be fairly comparable. The only thing is Vancouver's a major city. So and where the port is, you're downtown Vancouver. Yeah. And I think the Fairmont that they were at was the Pacific Rim. Same Fairmont where they just found Cory Monteith, I may add.
Actually, we were at the one just down the street. There's another Fairmont.
Oh, were you? Okay, you were not Pacific Rim?
No.
So you should have stayed at the Pacific Rim.
Yeah. This is the wow.
Yeah, okay.
This is the one that Disney Cruise Line puts you in. It's literally right across the street from it's a perfectly nice hotel, but it's not. If Disney is putting you there, it should be nicer, and the luggage should definitely not be sitting outside for hours.
But I will say that was the only negative experience that we saw in Vancouver.
Oh yeah,
I loved that city.
If you have time, make time.
It's a trendy town, right? It's supposed to be really trendy and
just really cool people and cool places, and
If you have days before or after, spend some time in Vancouver. It's absolutely gorgeous, and like you said, the culture is awesome. But I want to wrap up, guys. this has been fun, and I just again I have to sell the point that this is the most beautiful cruise you'll ever take. I don't think anything could sell this better than the absolutely breathtaking, gorgeous nature of it. It's beautiful. It's all about sightseeing. It's all about that nature, and it's wonderful.
Awesome.
Wow. Look at that.
Yeah.
So that is going to do it for this episode of Beyond the Parks and the Diz Unplugged. And we will see you next week for another edition of the Diz Unplugged. No, you won't. I have something to play us out. It's actually a video that I've been working on. It's the Inside Passage. Thank you for reminding me, Craig. Wow, that could have been disastrous. It's always funny. It's a video of the Inside Passage as you're making your way up to Tracy Arm Fjord. And it is, again, it just sells the nature and the beauty of this. So I want you guys to take a look at that. We're going to close out with this video. See you guys next week.